time for another round of brandy. Candid conversations over cocktails about all things brand with your hosts, Reilly Newman and Scott Saunders, the brand developers behind Motif Brands.
Oh, welcome back. Welcome back. Today, Reilly and I are going to talk about an issue that kind of came up recently in the office where we've got a client that is, we're rebranding, repositioning them, and one of the models we're possibly considering for them and talking through with them, and which got us kind of thinking more about this topic, is whether they should transfer more to like a membership type of business model where their customers would be subscribing or paying a monthly fee or an annual fee for access to maybe everything. Or do you have different tiers so you have access to other services, other components, but don't minimize it by breaking down each component? So all that being said, we are going to talk about being a member and what that means with regards to brand and what even is the difference between membership, subscription, or just how it used to be.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a really good connection with brand, because really, when you do think of brands that you love or you're really into and you feel that you belong part of, you do kind of have a natural membership to it. You may not be paying in that form, but you do feel you're part of a certain car brand, or maybe part of a certain technology brand that you really like, or a certain coffee brand. And I feel like it, again, with brand, it focuses on the relationship. And that's what I think is really interesting about membership models and how that's becoming more prevalent in a lot of different, whether it's products or services or experiences and more. You're seeing it more and more, and the population is becoming used to it.
I think of how certain models have changed with certain companies. One of the ones that I think comes to mind right off the bat is Adobe. Having been in this industry for the number of decades I have, I've always been an Adobe product user, basically for their software, and particularly with Adobe Illustrator and then Photoshop and Adobe InDesign for their layout and Acrobat, Bridge. They've just got a slew of software, and they've constantly been growing. But back in the day, you would buy just Adobe Illustrator, and it would be, you get the CD and everything else, and maybe every 2 years they might drop a new version, right? And it'd be a major version, and it was an opt-in type of thing. And they even had things where you could save files out to earlier versions, so that if those persons didn't have the latest, right? And that was the model. Yeah. And it was kind of pick and choose. It was like, do I want to go down and buy another hammer, or do I need a screwdriver, or what do I need? What kind of tool in my toolbox? And now everything's subscription based. And I remember when they moved that model, I was one downside was I felt like I was being imprisoned a little bit, because it felt mandatory that for me to even do my job, to have the tools, I have to be plugged in. I have to they have to connect with my computer when I'm launching that application to verify that I've got a valid license. It's now so connected, right, with the mothership of Adobe that if I stop paying my subscription and try to open, it's like I'm locked out of the very basic tools that my career is built on. Yeah. And yes, it makes sense if you look at, like, for us, for me, we do like the full suite, and it's like maybe, what is it, $60 a month or something for Adobe. But, and you go, well, that's not bad. I mean, a year, $600 for software. Okay. Yeah. Because that's kind of the price point. And back then it was like $300 to $400, $500, $600. Photoshop was like the most expensive, and Photoshop was like $600 every time you'd upgrade. But you wouldn't upgrade and be forced to upgrade every year. Yeah. The models shifted, and everything about the industry was made so that they're constantly updating the application. All the software is constantly, rather than every couple of years releasing a new version, or even every year. And it's seamless now, because if you're running it, everything automatically updates. So from designer to designer to print or vendor, everybody's working off the same set of tools, and it's all modernized. And so I understand the model. But for me, I'm old school. I feel like when memberships started becoming more of a thing, my initial reaction as a consumer was to be kind of stand back. I felt like I was having another ball and chain at it.
It shocked a lot of people. And now that I guess there's even a lawsuit right now with Adobe and how they set up with cancellations and all that. So I think that's created a ripple in the water. But I remember when they did make the switch, there's a lot of kind of ruffled feathers about it, which makes a lot of sense. And it's kind of the same thing you see with the music industry. Is that with technology, it's just become so integrated in everything that now there are, it does make sense to do these things for these companies. It's way more profitable for them, and it just makes more sense with updates. But, looking at how memberships and subscriptions go beyond that to, products, services, experiences, like even Porsche has a membership now that you can subscribe to having a Porsche. And so there's so many different models and interesting kind of variables to it that I think it's very applicable for small businesses, but also looking, 5 years down the line of, okay, where's this going? Because if I am focusing on the relationship with my customer, how do I maintain that and keep adding value to that? Because then I'm not having to resell a new customer or keep reselling the old customer. Now I have this ongoing ebb and flow with this individual where I'm able to keep adding value to their life.
Yeah.
And keep either, there's like, we'll get groceries. We do like a vegetable box, and we'll get that monthly.
Yeah, produce box.
Yeah. And it's actually like, at first I was like, I can just go to the store and get it. And then we started doing it, and it's pretty cool because you're getting, you don't know what you're going to be getting, and it's different vegetables and fruits, and they're fresh and they're all local, and it's really interesting. And it's made, cooking even more fun. But, it's a monthly price, and you get this cool little box that shows up.
Yeah. You mentioned, after coming off Adobe, you mentioned music, and that brought to mind too, for instance, hypothetical. When digital music came about, and with Apple and iTunes and MP3 players and the iPod, and
disclaimer,
I would
a sore spot for
I would
Scott.
purchase. No, it's not a sore. But okay, yes, I have ranted in the past about this. Is that I grew up in the day where I would go down and I'd buy an album, or I would buy an 8-track. I'm really dating myself, or a cassette. And I owned that music, that album. I had it, and I never had to pay anyone else through the years to listen to it again. And I had all my CDs, and I've burned a lot of MP3s. And so there's a huge amount of my music library on Apple that is burned CDs or purchased music that I have purchased the rights. In a sense, even though it's digital, I have it. Whereas my son or other people I know, they just do Apple Music, and they subscribe. But if you quit your Apple Music subscription, you don't have access to any of that music anymore.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's again that idea of that, like I'll subscribe to Spotify, because that's, for me, that's like a way to preview albums, music, and ones that I listen to a lot on Spotify, and I want the most highest quality digital I will then buy the album on, say, Apple Music or iTunes, and then own it, because I know that, even thankfully, I mean, I say this, knock on wood, we don't live in a day and age where Apple charges us a subscription just to use their ecosystem. Because if they did, then firing up and Apple Music and playing my purchased music wouldn't work.
Yeah,
because they'd be like, "Hey, you paid for it, but you still have to." Just like if I have purchased music, MP3s from Apple, I have to log in with my Apple ID to basically access them.
Yeah.
Right. But if they charge me to even do that, then they're really grabbing. But right now, they use cloud. They have a lot of subscription services, but just the using it, you've paid for your software, and you've paid for your hardware, and that's it. And you can go off in the sunset and not have to continue to shovel out monthly to Apple for just those services.
Yeah. And to give you perspective, Scott owns, his library is massive of music. Like, he has a ton, and very organized, extremely well organized. And I'm on the other side of the spectrum where I don't own any music. I'm completely just Apple Music, and that's all. My library is completely empty. But so we have very different views on this, but I think that's also, you look at, the access to iTunes that you have. You could even say, buying the computer, paying $1,000 to get in a Mac, is that purchase that you're buying access to that software that
right.
is, stretched over so many years. You're paying X amount per month to actually have access to the software. Right. And I think that's what's interesting about memberships, is that it starts to really change the way you look at the transaction. And whether that is, in some of these examples of going, okay, music, instead of buying, a whole CD album with all 12 tracks on it, like when Steve Jobs first stepped on with iTunes, he's like, okay, you can buy one track for $1, right? And that was revolutionary. That was huge, because it was like, oh my gosh, you can. He was fractionalizing the album, just like you see fractionalizing now of time, or even stocks with Robinhood, is that you have fractionalized stocks, and so you have products, being on this subscription model like this, where it gets divvied up through the lifetime. Services like Adobe or Netflix, things like that, and then you do have things that go beyond that, like experiences. Like I would even say the Porsche thing. It's like you're paying $1,000 a month or whatever it is to experience having a Porsche, and you could go change that Porsche every day if you want to, or go explore it in different models and whatnot. So for a small business, it's like thinking ahead and going, what does this mean for my product or service? How do I really kind of change the way I'm selling it? Because there are advantages to looking at subscriptions, and like that candle company that you mentioned.
Fable Rune.
Yeah. And so Scott has this subscription where they get a candle every month.
Yeah, it's a monthly. Fable Rune is a local company. They make homemade candles, really unique flavor. It's not like one scent. It's not like, it's like a Yankee candle, like butterscotch and pina colada or anything like. They're all natural smell scents, and they're blends. But they also sell shampoos, conditioners, bar soaps, and hair and facial cleansers, all those things. But they also, in a lot of the shops, sell their candles, and they're known for the candles. Long burn time, wonderful fragrance. My wife loves them. So one time I was looking at buying her a Fable Rune for like a stocking stuffer for a candle. And they're like $20 candles. They have a candle subscription that I ended up signing her up for, and we get a candle a month, and it's always different. And it's never one that you can get in their storefront. So it's a special blend for that seasonal month. They like to make a special batch for their subscription members. So it's a special candle. And there's never been a repeat. We've been doing this for about 2 years now. Never been a repeat. And there's never been one where she's like, oh, I don't really like this one. And it encourages her to burn through the candle, because she goes, I know at the end of the month, I'm getting a new yummy candle. Because my wife loves candles, but a lot of times she'll like be very frugal with them, because she doesn't want them to burn down. Because now I need to and get it again. So it's a great model. They also have one where it's like 3 candles quarterly, and they also do one where it's like an indulge subscription where you get like 2 bar soaps and a cleanser or something every 3 months or something. So they have a couple subscriptions that make it convenient, but. What's the difference? The fact that it's a surprise, that's the element that my wife loves the most, because when she gets her box from Fable Rune, she's so excited to go, oh my gosh, what's it going to be? Smell, and what's the blend going to be this month?
Which that's a really good example, because it's like, it's not just the product, right? The $20 candle that you could have bought maybe once or twice, but just like you said, you've had a relationship with them for 2 years of getting these candles on a monthly basis, and they've been able to pack in value by giving you these exclusive, call them flavors or scents of candle flavors.
Aromas.
These different aromas that are exclusive to you, and you're enjoying it. And it sounds like they're, hitting the nail on the head each time, where they've given you really great quality and, aromas that you actually enjoy. So I'm like, that's where they packed in the value. And like we were talking before we started recording, was like using Amazon Prime as an example of this, where it's very similar in the sense that Prime, being a membership, it's like you are a Prime member, and Amazon just keeps packing in value into it. And of course, it started with free shipping, and that was like the entry into it. Is
free
that
2-day shipping?
Free like
back in the day. Back in the day, it was like free 2-day shipping on anything.
Like, oh my gosh, how did they?
That
do
was a
that?
miracle. Yeah. And now it's like not on there. It's all free shipping, but now it's very seldom because the influx of the shipping industry, right, and everything.
And so I think it's what they've done through the years. Like now they have sports on there. Now they have HBO Max. Now they have Prime Video. Now they have all these different things. I'm waiting for them to actually now set up a movie thing where in movie theaters they'll have Prime movies, and your Prime membership will allow you to go see that movie in the theater for free. because really it's not, the subscription's not changing. I'm not subscribing to different modes of Prime. It's like, no, I'm just a member, so I get all this access to these amazing features for being a member. And it's kind of like, like a gym, or maybe even like a fancy, like, what do you call that? Like a golf club?
Resort. The tennis club. You belong to the country club.
You
We're
can't
members
say
of the country
golf
club.
Why? I just
or
realized
like
that.
and I guess this is what kind of, when we were last talking about this topic, we were talking about like, okay, so what's the difference between a subscription and a membership? And you can get a definitive and look it up online and see what the definitive example is. But there's a lot of blurred area between that. And I think a lot of the, for instance, why we have a membership with Netflix. Is it a Netflix subscription, or do I have a membership? Because I have a membership with Video Prime. Yeah. Or is Prime Video part of my Amazon Prime membership? Yeah. Right. Yeah. But if I'm paying for a month and I have services or products that are to be had, whether it's up to me or not, how is that different than subscribing to Peacock, but never launching it in one whole month? I paid for the service. I never went and used it. Never went to them to look at what content they have and watch it. I'm still paying for it, just like I can pay for a gym membership. Yeah. Right. Same thing. If we're saying, oh, well, that's a subscription to Peacock, then it's a subscription to the gym where I'm paying like Planet Fitness, $10 a month. It's open 24/7, whether I use it or not. Right. Yeah. And then you get into other things where it's more like membership tiers where you can go to a higher gym, right? And you've got the standard, but then you can go, oh, now you want free Pilates classes and Peloton classes or whatever it is. And we do those, and those, but that's our silver membership tier. Yeah. And so now you have tiers with added bonus and values, but can you not have tiered subscriptions? Again, I think we've gotten blurred where now brands are utilizing pretty much the same thing. It's a regular, account, and whether it's billed annually or monthly, whatever. But I think membership sure sounds sexier. If from a branding standpoint, if you go, we have a subscription for that, or going, oh no, membership, because subscription implies that anybody can have access to it. You just have to sign up for the subscription. Membership, even though that's not the case, it implies like you have to be voted in. They have to confer and see if you're worthy of being a member, right? Because our oldest associations with memberships were things like a member of the country club, where literally it was like you had to be socially accepted into the fold, and then you are allowed to become a member, right? Because it started off with all these rich, posh.
You're allowed to pay,
members,
and
right?
I think that's like where it's like we're kind of having the exercise of going, okay, where does it come from, right? Like magazines, you have subscriptions. Newspaper subscriptions. When Netflix first started, you had a subscription where you were being delivered this product to your mailbox, and then that has evolved over time, where now Netflix is just there, and it's up to you to come partake of it. Just like when you have a gym membership, the gym's just sitting there, the pool's just sitting there, and it's up to you to come partake of it as often as you want. You might not go, or you might, and I think that's where you see where subscription and membership is really blurred. And like you said, in my mind, the association with subscription versus membership is like subscription. Someone's going to think, oh, what is it, like $10 or $20 a month, right? It's like you think of a lower price when you hear subscription versus membership. You could be like, oh no, it's $300 or $500 a month to be a member. And I think that's where Prime played it really well. And Adobe, I feel like...
I was going to say, is Adobe, knowing the price point, do we have a subscription to Adobe or a membership to Adobe?
I think that was strategic, is that they wanted to be subscription, because you look at where the technology was going, even with like Canva now, is that they were trying to be more accessible.
But they pitch it like a subscription. They don't pitch it like a membership to Adobe. So that's what I'm saying. I don't know that it's so much about the price, like only lower price point deems it a subscription, because you can get a very costly Adobe subscription. It's still but I think membership implies maybe more, possibly maybe more special access than normal people engaging with the brand might be able to get. So if the only way you can engage with your brand is by signing up and having some regular monthly, thing that's guaranteed, right, till you cancel. If that's even across the board, maybe that's more like a subscription, whereas a membership would be like you can transact with the brand, or you can become a member and look at all this extra value you get. And yes, you're subscribing more and it costs more, but look at all the added value. And that's where you were talking about how brand can encapsulate membership to almost an added value, and what comes from added value. And let's not say membership, because maybe you're a brand that needs a subscription. So how do you increase value through your subscriptions and through the brand, to leverage it? If you're considering about either of these two, regardless of what you call it, this model, if you're doing small business.
I think it's also like, just like with brand that we always talk about, it's like that long-term mindset of just like with the candle, right? It's a candle, it's a $20 candle, but if I'm able to delay that transaction in the present and develop that relationship with someone who's going to pay me monthly over 2 or 5 years, I'm looking at the lifetime value of that customer. And that's what brand is as well, where it's like, Coke, Apple, all these guys, like that's what they view in their customers is like the lifetime value of that customer. They're not looking at you buying the Coke off the shelf right away. It's like, how many times can we get them to buy Coke throughout the year and have them enjoy it and be part of it and want to choose Coke whenever that option does arrive. Yeah. And that's kind of the situations of it where it's like, how do you get into the ongoing relationship of, that they'll choose us each time, or they're expecting this experience on a monthly basis, or they're accessing something that they're actually enjoying.
Yeah. And I mean, look at access thing. For instance, anyone, and just two companies that came to mind, Polar, both have memberships, but Amazon, you don't need an Amazon you don't have to be a Prime member to just go online, order something on Amazon. Right?
Yeah.
You don't.
I think
you can do a guest
benefits,
checkout. You don't have to sign up and pay for that Prime membership, right? Prime membership gets you Prime Video, it gets you all these other things, but you can still go and do that.
Yeah.
I can't walk into Costco and buy well, I can buy the hot dog on the outside, so never mind that. But I can't go in and buy, the 80-pound bag of beef jerky at Costco without that membership. And their membership is their most recent, is their highest product that they sell. They see what is the most popular product Costco, in their mind, their product is that membership, but that's the price of admission, right? Just like you can't just go, I really want a Disneyland churro, and go, hey, at the ticket gate, I just want to go in and get a churro.
Yeah, buy one.
Be like, no, I'm sorry, you need to pay the ticket price to get into the park, and then you can buy a churro or not buy a churro.
Yeah,
but the ticket gets you access to everything, right?
Yeah, and Costco is such a good example because they are, they started so long ago and they've held that model where it's benefited the company in so many ways. And I'm kind of surprised that not more companies have rolled out with it, but it's, you are gaining access, you're paying for it to gain access to the great deals, to the special, collaborations they do with other brands, whether it's automotive, or they do, Samsung refrigerators and stuff like that, where they'll do special collaborations, plus the savings you get on all of the products they're selling, and they do, a couple other things. But it's really interesting because it is kind of like, I can see where Amazon was inspired by that, where they kind of did create this membership of a walled garden where, okay, now you have access to all this great stuff, come on in and enjoy it. And the membership is the key. That's the cash flow, right? Where it's just like, it's a monthly thing that they're receiving and a yearly, revenue that's really helping them out.
Yeah. I think, go ahead.
Oh, and I think, applying that to small business is like, if you are converting to that, even just like that little grocery box I get, it's like that's turned into monthly revenue for them, where they're getting this money, not for in particular, vegetables or fruit that they're selling, but it's actually this ongoing cash flow of them providing this.
It's a dedicated consumer base.
Yeah. And I think that's it's really fascinating because you think about what they were before that. It was about selling, okay, how many heads of, celery or of lettuce did we sell? How many apples was that, right? It was all focused on these items.
Yeah. Like, do you have one big price and give customers access to everything, or do you compartmentalize and monetize every little single service? Another example that just popped into mind. I remember the days, this was before you were even born, when going to Disneyland right? You would have a small payment price to get into the park, and to go on any of the rides, you had to buy the tickets, so that you get a block of tickets. This is in the 70s. You'd have the A ticket, B ticket, C ticket.
Right.
The E ticket was the most expensive rides. That'd be like the Matterhorn. That'd be the Pirates Caribbean, the Haunted Mansion. Those were the E ticket ones. And so you'd go to a booth and you would buy a ticket, a booklet of like 10 tickets, and I forget how much it was, but one ticket for a ride. And so that's where they got people in the park, but then you could go around the park and maybe not ride on any of the rides, and so they only got X amount from you. But their more popular rides required more money, and you needed to buy a whole booklet. You couldn't just buy one e-ticket. You had to buy the next, a 5 booklet, but they would be staggered.
Yeah.
So you'd have a lot of A tickets for like the teacups and things like that weren't as popular. But then they switched over to going, hey, we're going to charge an exorbitant amount of money.
Yeah,
I say that now. But we're going to charge a really high ticket price to just get into the park, whether you ride on any rides or not. But guess what? Every ride is open to you as many times as you can fit into your day.
Yeah.
And they're probably raking in a lot more money that way, in that using that model.
Yeah, and it's better for them as a company and better for the customer experience and the brand experience, because it's like that's one pain point where the customer's coming, holy smokes, how much for a ticket just to get in? They pay that, okay, there's the pain, rather than every time they're going to a ride to try to enjoy themselves. It's, pain after pain after pain after pain. There's some reduced pain with a ticket, just like a credit card, but it's still, there's pain in those moments. So even like a subscription that's, just automatically pulling out of your bank account, that pain's not there. You're not choosing to, okay, I'm going to rent this movie or rent this show just like it used to be. Now it's just like, okay, I don't even think about it. I just watch what I want.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if, and I might actually would consider it, would be like with Amazon, like you have Prime Video, right? So you're like, hey, and it's just like Hulu or any of these others, like they have some movies, they have some shows, they have special offerings, and that's all baked into your membership. But we also go to Amazon Prime Video, right, to rent movies and stream them. Also. And they're anywhere from $4 to $5 a rental, and we get it for 48 hours.
Yeah, the $20 ones now too.
The ones that are practice on the theater. Now the question is Amazon going to start wising up and going, you can upcharge your Prime, your Amazon membership. You get Video Prime, but guess what? Now you get Movie Pass, which is extra a month or whatever, and you get maybe 20, it basically bakes in. So it makes more sense to get that and not have to individually rent these movies that aren't available on their normal Video Prime
kind of like
ecosystem.
What PlayStation did with their category or their catalog, where they have like the different tiers of, you can have the essentials and you get these games with it, or you upgrade and you get access to more and the library expands. And that's all access based, which is interesting because it's like the library is just sitting there and they're just controlling they're throttling the access depending on what someone's willing to pay. And I really do think this is going to be the future for a lot of businesses. And I think it's healthy in a lot of ways, because it does, like we've talked about today, is like it changes the mindset. I think there's just something about membership where you're focusing so much more on the customer and their enjoyment of it, and there's a constant.
Well, you hope they do.
Yeah, like,
you hope they do.
But there's a constant critique. Like there's not just this this one-time transaction. It's like, no, it's this person's in the same boat as you. They're sitting there and enjoying the product or not, or they're going to let you know and go, hey, I'm not getting my money out, or I'm not getting my worth.
And this might be a great opportunity too for you as a brand to find that way to be distinct among your competition. In other words, if there isn't any type of even a subscription-based option with any of what your competitors are doing, well, then that right there is a way that you could kind of have yourself and your brand, either product or service, stand apart a little bit from what everyone else is doing, because they're rethinking it through. It's kind of like when Dollar Shave Club started. You need more razors, you go down to the CVS or Rite Aid and buy up some more Gillettes or at the store. And then it was like, wait, I can have them sent my house enough for a whole month, and it became this, and I don't even have to think about it. And they just come in the mail. And all of a sudden it was like Dollar Shave kind of blew up that way because it was a model that other shave companies were not doing. Now, guess what? Now other ones jumped on the bandwagon and are doing it too. But there was a young competitor that thought differently and was looking at the industry going, you know what? No one's really doing this. And there's a way where you can, just by how you're doing business, be distinctive. Not just your product or service being distinct, but how you're doing it.
Yeah. And I think the irony of it all is like, just like you said, is like, it's such a good way to be distinctive is going, okay, what's my market doing? What's kind of par for the course for these businesses? How could I either, charge differently or even just sell differently? And it does that, like you said, with the Shave Club, or even like what Netflix at the time, like that was a novel idea of sending discs in the mail. But also now you have brands coming out where now they're pushing just a one-time fee. You pay once and you have it forever. There's software companies coming out now where it's exactly, it's very ironic, and it's actually Jason Fried with Basecamp. He's launching products now where instead of this ongoing subscription for services online, it's like now you just pay once and you have it forever, just like it used to be. But now, since the subscription models are so prevalent, now that's the outlier that's standing out, and people are talking about it, and it's interesting to people because some people are sick of monthly payments over and over.
And be careful too. I mean, it's like, oh, okay. So, I mean, even like value bundling your products, right? Don't send them individually, bundle them together into little groups and sell them that way. That could be a great model for you, but it might not. And here's an example. I've seen a lot with True Classic. I've seen the ads. I've seen them like, okay, are they all with the fit, the feel, everything else, right? So I can't go into store. So I go online to buy one. I can't buy just one shirt.
Yeah.
They sell it in a 3-pack, and it's like $60 for 3 quality shirts, but I just want to try one.
Yeah.
And even just give me if they have all these multiple colors, great, but maybe they just sell a single unit of a black or a white one, and then a higher price point, but just be able to buy one so I could try, rather than why do I have to invest X amount just to try? What if I don't like them, right? And I've got 3 shirts or 5 or 6. So
a single white shirt,
a single
like
white T-shirt.
Episode.
Yes.
But that's
so I think there's an example again. It's
Yeah.
like you want to make it. I guess what I'm saying is you want to make it attractive, and also keep in mind, if you know your consumer, especially new consumers. That's the thing, is if you're going to have a subscription or membership option, have some way for have some way for the consumer to be able to have a taste, have a trial, have a demo, have something to engage with your brand that allows them, and whether it's free or whether it's a trial size, whatever it is, because otherwise you're asking them to bite off a big chunk and blindly trust your brand when they've never engaged with it before.
Yeah. Yeah. Or perhaps like a guarantee, like money back,
Yeah, but even then,
it's on
there's
the
a lot of
customer to
red
send
tape.
it
A lot
back.
of people that say money back, and then you come out to find out you sent
sorry,
I
you
want to
missed
return,
the time frame.
and 2 weeks go by before you hear from customer service. You actually think, geez, was this a legitimate company?
And I think with all of this, membership always makes me think of bundles. And we've seen Disney do this, where they've been able to not only their whole collection on Disney Plus, but now they've bundled in Nat Geo, Marvel, Star Wars.
They keep buying everybody.
What?
They keep buying it.
They keep gobbling up everything. But they've been bundling. And back in the 90s, the Netscape CEO, he said something like, hey, the only way to make money, from I see it, is you can either bundle or unbundle. And that's what you see these companies do over and over, is that they're either bundling up things, or they'll get to a point where they start unbundling and then selling those specifically, which makes a lot of sense, because you can either, the bundling is much more, I think, approachable to people, where they go, oh, I get all this for that price, deal. And then as that becomes more specific, then the company can deliberately, carve off one of those and sell that for a premium price for that specific purpose or need.
Yeah.
And so I think, when you look at your business, go, hey, what could I actually do that is different? Like Scott said, this is a great way to stand out and be different. And also that relationship and that value is like understanding what would be the most valuable thing to your customer. What would they enjoy and find the most value with? And you can look at your business model, look at the way you're charging, and be able to apply some of those things to really help your brand out.
Yeah. Good point. All right. Well, hey, thanks. I think that's enough for that topic of membership, subscriptions, however you want to call it, and the impact they could have or not have on your brand. We appreciate you tuning in. Your time is valuable, so we thank you. And spread the word. If you like Brandy, we don't make a cent. There's no advertisement. It's no nothing. So we do this because we like doing it. So pass the word, let friends know, and we will see you next round. Cheers.